Well, maybe we can touch on some of the high points, jumping around a little bit
Sure,
in your book.
sure.
And for example, you have a chapter on inner work and suggesting that, in a nutshell, if I may use that term, that's the key thing. So tell us about that. The inner work. What's inner work?
Yeah, well, the inner work chapter, we talk about dream work. We talk about active imagination, and I'll
Yeah.
talk about what that is. And the whole idea of therapy and what's going on with that. And I think I talk about Jungian analysis in that chapter too, and what it means to be a Jungian analyst. It's really interesting. You mentioned the in a nutshell. So the full quote of in a nutshell from Hamlet is, I could be bounded in a nutshell and count myself a king of infinite space, were it not that I have bad dreams.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I actually wanted to have that be the epigraph for the book, but the publisher didn't go for it. He's got a lot of nutshell books, so maybe he's sick of hearing that quote. But I,
Yeah.
I thought it was really perfect for this book.
Well,
So
one of the points that you make that I thought was a good one is that being a Jungian, whether you're in Jungian analysis or you're just a fan, he speaks to you or something, that to progress, to grow, really involves engaging in some kind of a process of, quotes, inner work,
mhm.
and that there are different techniques, not only that Jung used, but that people following him have developed to facilitate that kind of inner work.
Yeah, and I think we can talk about those different qualities and what they are. One of the things that I think my favorite part of that chapter is the end where I talk about Tony Wolff. Um, so at the end of that chapter, there's an example that talks about if a client was working with Tony Wolff and they had a big kind of revelation in the last session, and that there was an outcome from that revelation, that they were needed to do X, Y, or Z. They needed to do something to honor it. If a client hadn't done that thing in the intervening week, she would basically scoot them out of the office and say,
Yeah,
come back when you mean business.
yeah,
And so it's not just, I mean, one of the things people I think in a negative way about Jungian psychology is it's sort of navel gazing and just inner reflection for its own sake. But I think it really is about getting in touch with what our, you could say our soul or our unconscious wants us to do differently in our lives.
mhm,
What does it want us to live out? What does it want us to let go of? What does it want us to, um, honor in a physical, tangible way? One of the amazing, I mean, inspirations, and I let myself, have this experience on purpose to write the book. Last April, I went down to Santa Barbara and got to see a lot of Jung's art in a display at UCSB.
wow,
Pacific obviously was involved with that, and they had all of Jung's, the carvings he had done and the paintings he had done, and so many of those are specifically honoring inner figures.
yeah. That's one of the incredible things about Jung was that he was so many things, you know. He was an artist, he was a sculptor, he was a furniture maker, he was a house builder, he was an archaeologist, he was an adventurer, traveler, and the list just goes on. He was a linguist. He studied ancient languages.
Yeah,
It's amazing
and
to,
the art for me was a way of taking the spiritual or the ephemeral inner life and putting it into something concrete, which is the
yeah,
one thing that those inner figures and inner experiences cannot do. They
yeah.
cannot make themselves concrete. They can affect us as emotion or in different ways. Um, but to see how seriously, I mean, the Red Book is the ultimate expression of this, how seriously Jung honored the inner life night after night, painting these little cells in the Red Book, each one perfectly done, honoring an inner figure. That is, I mean, Jung is about taking the inner life seriously.